Well, we had some news break earlier today that really got the internet riled up, specifically with Microsoft, Sony, and exclusivity, with a sprinkle of Activision Blizzard actually thrown in there. This has to do with Redfall, that's actually out pretty soon, and I'm looking forward to it. The more we see of it, I think it is looking better and better. We had kind of this preview event blowout, a lot of information hitting now, and part of it came from an interview with a person at Arcane, and they discussed a PlayStation 5 version that was actually canceled, and they went a bit more in depth than even I was expecting. We'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you like it and subscribe if you're new here to the Spawnwave Plus channel. Let's head over here. This is posted up on Push Square, where they say Vampire FPS Redfall was in development for PS5 but was canned after Xbox buyout. This was with IGN France, an interview with creative director Harvey Smith, where they say, we got bought out by Microsoft and it was a change with a capital C. They came in and said, no PS5, we're focusing on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass. It does go on to say it's not a big deal and is actually a good decision, mostly because, one, it does work to support Game Pass, which is like the foundation that Microsoft is building their entire division around for Xbox and gaming. So Game Pass for them at this point, with what like kind of the direction they've taken, has to succeed. And also, it'll probably up their overall active or concurrent player count just because it'll be available through that service. But also, it's one less platform to worry about. In this case, they are looking at the Xbox Series S, the Series X, and PC. If you throw PlayStation 5 in there, that is obviously one more thing to account for and create around. There's also the idea that you would have to work to at least get it past approval or lot check with PlayStation, and that's just one less process to go through that can be a whole thing on its own. And yes, you can have one game get denied from one platform holder and they have to go back and fix certain things or change things, whereas another might approve it. So just more work that would go into that whole thing. And that part's not new. We've heard this from other publishers and developers, most recently with Final Fantasy 16, that to be able to focus primarily on one platform means that you can emphasize the strengths on that system. Now, of course, it'll also be on PC, and most of these games are developed on PC and with that in mind anyway, so it's not too surprising to see them developing there. Obviously, it's another big initiative from Microsoft. But the thing that really got people going here online has to do, obviously, with Microsoft coming in for a game that was originally being developed with all the platforms in mind, right? Like, it was going to go to PS5. They're admitting that here. Yes, there was a PS5 version. Microsoft came in and said, we're just focusing on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass. So, yeah, in essence, Microsoft canceled that version, which goes against what they've been saying publicly, but this should not surprise anyone. And I think the people that it's surprising or they're acting surprised are usually the people that are behind one company or another. And my biggest thing here is you really got to look at these companies as they are, and that's just companies. They're corporations that are looking to leverage the market in their favor, and part of that has to do with exclusive content. It's just the way it's always been and the way it will continue to be into the future. If all of these games were available on all platforms, you would probably get to a point where there is not much competition or much reason to create a platform even. Remember, exclusive drive platform sales. Nintendo is one of the biggest proponents of that, and look what's happened with the Switch. While the hybrid nature, I think, certainly plays into the idea of why it's selling so well with the convenience, it's hard to argue when something like Breath of the Wild launches on that system or in their lineup of systems, because it was there on the Wii U. But again, not a lot of people were rushing out to buy a Wii U at that time, but they were going to buy the Switch to play Breath of the Wild. And then we see things like Pokemon, Splatoon, and so on there. So yeah, Microsoft doing this is clearly just them going, well, it benefits us if there's just an Xbox and a PC version. So the PS5 version, we're going to kind of leave that behind on the cutting room floor. I think the issue they run into, though, is that Phil Spencer does a lot of interviews, and he does put that friendly face on when he does them with PR speak, And again, that's just a front that these companies and corporations will put up to be more favorable in the public eye. And so when you hear him say things like, we want more people to experience these games, more players, means it's just better for everyone, and then they cut out a system completely, that's kind of the business side clashing with that PR side. The other aspect to remember with this is the fact that Activision Blizzard, that entire situation with regulators, is still ongoing, and Sony has mentioned that there was a Starfield PS5 version that was cut down at some point. And yeah, they would probably know because there were rumors that they were in talks to have a timed exclusivity deal with it. And look, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, again, all do these exclusive deals or create games from the ground up with their internal studios as exclusives, right? It pushes the market along with console sales. It's just Nintendo and Sony are either mostly silent on the idea of even locking down third-party exclusives, as in they don't play up the fact that it's a bad thing to do that. They're perfectly fine just saying, yeah, we bought the rights to this game. We're putting our name on it. We're publishing it. That's us. But Microsoft has continued to go back and forth with the Activision Blizzard situation with Sony and the regulators, mostly saying, we're trying to get Call of Duty onto more platforms. But when something like this pops up, which I'll admit, I'm a little surprised they were so candid in this interview about it, because even Microsoft might be like, hey, can we keep it a bit quiet for some of these things? Like, did they really have to say, oh yeah, there was a PS5 version, and it was a hard pivot when Microsoft showed up, and we could drop the PS5 version then and there, and it was great. Focus on one platform. I do wonder if this is going to show up in a regulatory filing in the next couple of weeks to a month from Sony's side, saying, look what they did. They pulled away Redfall. What do you think they're going to do with Call of Duty after 10 years? And if you consider the fact that Microsoft did mention, hey, 10 years, plenty of time to come up with a Call of Duty alternative. But if Call of Duty is always there, does Sony really need to come up with an alternative? So that's another thing to consider is, yeah, after 10 years, Call of Duty might just be a Game Pass or Xbox exclusive, which after 10 years probably gives them enough time to build up that install size so that they can legitimately support Call of Duty. I mean, 10 years, what if they have 100 to 150 million subscribers in Game Pass, paying $15 to even $20 a month, as we assume the price is going to go up? Then they probably could look around and say, you know what? Yeah, the next Call of Duty, that's just on Xbox. Now, we don't know that completely. Obviously, can't tell what happens 10 years from now in the future. Who knows what gaming will look like then? It's just certainly a possibility, and Sony is just looking for anything they can to kind of back up those claims as future forward thinking as they are, and seeing something like this not exactly helping Microsoft's case. However, I think this news is pretty obvious. With Starfield, pretty clear that game was in development for a long time, and I'm sure they were looking around at the PlayStation 5. Redfall's the same thing, been in development for years and years, predating, obviously, the acquisition. And when you're a third-party developer, you're going to look to put it on as many platforms as you realistically can to get as much money back in sales as possible. So yeah, I'm sure Redfall and Starfield all in development completely on the PS5, and there was a pivot when Microsoft bought them, as they are buying these studios and publishers, in this case with Activision Blizzard, in order to hold up Game Pass and continue to accelerate its growth. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Do you think it's a problem or a big deal that Microsoft seemingly came in and just cut down the PS5 version of Redfall? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.